Being 9 o'clock and our rest are here, we'll call a meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance, please.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible.
Okay, we have an agenda was submitted to us. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I think Brian wanted to pull
On action or on?
on action.
Gotcha.
He wanted to pull in action item number 4.
Okay. So.
That's it. Yeah, he's not ready for that. There
Okay, so
things will come up here.
removing number 4 from the agenda and the action. Okay. Anything else? If we're Ryan gonna be here.
Yep.
Should be there. Okay. Anything else? Entertain a motion. With the agenda.
With that change, I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carry. Approve the previous minutes of April 4th. The additions or corrections? So moved. Greg moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Other discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carry. This time we have a public comment. Anybody wish to address the board? Public comment time, please come forward to this area here and state your name. So anybody wish to report? Okay. Good.
My name is Steve Skipton. Live outside of Houston, Houston Township.
Okay.
So I guess I'm just here today, to talk about an idea that the county can consider, the commissioners can consider. So of course, the legislative session is in the midst and I think ending in about a month. There's a lot of things passing through, a lot of different bills being considered. A few of those revolve around possible gun restrictions, gun control. I think people who follow this, if you're what we would call law-abiding gun owners, have some concern on what's being considered. We oftentimes in greater Minnesota, I think we get a little bit frustrated that sometimes our voice isn't heard very well at the Capitol. So I think there's a couple things going on at the state right now that is probably addressing that. You probably have seen there's a fair number. I don't want to get into the fine details of the bills that are out there. You guys maybe follow them. People can do that themselves. But in summary, I think they're not necessarily all that positive for people who are already law abiding, that they kind of penalize us. And so a couple of things that are taking place, there's a large number of elected sheriffs who are penning communication to elected officials that are kind of putting them on notice that they don't necessarily approve the bills that are being considered and maybe would not intend to enforce those should they get passed. And I think that means a lot for elected officials to be hearing from those county sheriffs. In fact, our own Sheriff Sweatberg, I believe, has signed on to one of those communications, which we're thankful for. I think the other thing that's going on is there's a lot of counties in the state of Minnesota that are declaring themselves Second Amendment dedicated counties. Some of the terminology you might also hear is Second Amendment sanctuary counties. I don't know that one's more correct than another. There's the Google search that I did. I think there's 87 counties in the state of Minnesota. There's a group in Minnesota, they're called the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, and they track legislation and bills and inform people. It's a great organization. They have a good website. They've been tracking how many counties are doing this, declaring themselves Second Amendment dedicated counties. Right now, there's 18 counties that have already passed resolutions. There's an additional 39 counties that have it in the works, meaning it's somewhere between their work groups and voting on a resolution. So I think that is a good, strong message for the outlying part of the state of Minnesota to elected officials that there are counties paying attention and saying that they're not necessarily supportive of the bills. Of course, counties can't pass laws that are less stringent than the state, so that's not the point of the resolution. I think it's just making a statement to elected officials on the stance. And so I think it would be quite beneficial. The resolutions are really easy. They're one-page documents. Sometimes they spill onto a second page. That website I was talking about, I think it's minnesotagunowners.mn. They have sample resolutions. You can pull them right off of there and tailor it to your own county. They're also posting the resolutions of the 18 counties that have passed, and they're even rating them as strong resolutions. So for another county to consider these resolutions, I think it's pretty easy. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already out there, just insert a different name. And so I think the goal today, and just what's up for discussion, I know you have another meeting in 2 weeks and there's a working group next week, but would like to entertain the idea and a consideration, an action item that Houston County consider being a Second Amendment dedicated county and possibly have a resolution at your next meeting to vote on.
Did you bring sample of that?
I don't have the samples with me. I have the
It's on the
websites.
website.
They're all available.
Any comment, question, just Johnson's, Commissioner Johnson's questions to look into. I think to see it.
Thanks for coming, Steve. We'll have a clear discussion on.
Anybody else, public comment, wish to address the board?
Okay, I would like to,
Identify yourself, please. So we-
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My name is Jill Reed. And the part of the school, thing that I was reading about last night, I would really like to see, support for the bipartisan Safer Community Act of 2021. And that was passed by the president. And he would give $750 million to any state that were to pass this. And what it is crisis intervention, which would allow mental health courts, drug courts, and military courts. Because, you know, when somebody is having a mental health crisis, their mind is not like, and they should not be punished and sent to jail for that. They need treatment. And the same is true for somebody who is on drugs. This is money would then help the people to go and get treatment. And with the Veterans Court, at this time, you can only go through Blue Earth County, but they have Zoom type capabilities if somebody is not, you know, in Blue Earth. Currently though, there are only, I believe, 7 counties that are taking part in the Veterans Court. And one of the parts to that is that a veteran would have a peer support person, and the veterans, you know, violation cannot be due to military service. You know, there's different regulations or whatever for what would qualify for this. But, you know, I really think the more we look at treatment versus just throwing people in jail, that's really, you know, that's prevention. And it's just really giving people a much better view, and it's a much better way to treat people. And I also want to address trigger locks. I mean, they're a $6 item. I think whenever a gun is sold, that a trigger lock should be sold with it. They cost like $6. And that does a great amount of prevention, because when you put trigger lock on, you have to unload the gun, which then prevents it. If a little kid walks up, grabs the gun, they can't use it. So I think that that would be a very effective.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board? Public comment.
My name is Jason Reed. I live in Money Creek near Eric. I don't have a speech, but I would just like to show support for the first gentleman as well as my wife's son, and I support no gun control.
Thank you.
Anybody? Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Trish Nessler. I am a resident of Money Creek, and I came to show support as well for Steve and what he was speaking about. Sometimes I think it's helpful when we have another perspective, especially from a woman. I'm a mother and a woman and a small business owner in the area, and I support no gun control. I think it's important to be able to protect our Second Amendment right, especially with regards to protecting our families and our businesses. So I am here to show support to that. And if anyone has any questions for me and my perspective, I'm open to them.
Ready? Everything to our files and go from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else to address the board? Any other public comment to address the board? Okay, moving on. Do we have no appointments at this time? Moving on to the consent agenda. There are 5 items on the consent agenda. Question, comment, thought? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carry. We have two here. First one is consider approving contract with Dynamic Life Cycle Innovation. Mr. Hart.
Got the recycling contract for electronics from Dynamic in Onalaska, and it's a renewal of the contract. Last year, the prices have changed a little. Some are up, some are down. It's hard to know where exactly we'll go. We actually spent less last year than we did the previous year. Last year's contract was about 13,300, and in 2021 it was 15,500. So it's hard to know, you know, where it's going to go exactly, but that's about the range that we're alluding to on this for the recycling of the electronics. Dynamic is a pretty reliable organization, and they're very good to work with.
Well, it's hard to know where it's gonna go because it's based on volume, so
Right.
One year could be a lot, one year could be a little.
Yep.
But the prices per pound haven't changed dramatically.
No, not too much.
Okay? Any
I'll
other
make
questions? Greg,
I was gonna make a motion to go with that dynamic lifestyle.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Alright,
Opposed, say nay. Carry.
Thank you.
Very good. Next is consider approval to apply for 2023 State of Minnesota Boat and Water Safety Grant. George Flipper.
Morning.
Good morning.
morning.
This is a annual grant we just apply for every year. It's like this federal grant. So it's need your permission to apply for the grant and get that going.
Is this the same amount as last year?
It went up a little bit,
Price of fuel.
something like that.
Maybe
Inflation.
everything. So,
Move to approve.
there a second? Excuse me, Greg. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, along the cheer.
Yeah.
I had a person ask me for like the deputies in Spring Grove working for the city. If they get a call for a rural emergency, are they allowed to?
Yes, okay. They go for emergency purposes. If there's just a basic call outside the city, then the regular deputy would take care of it, but if emergency calls,
Okay,
they go and assist.
so they're flexible as far as that.
Correct.
Okay.
Just like any city officer, if there's an emergency, a city officer will respond also.
But if you get a call from somebody on a situation, you'll send a different deputy.
If it's a basic situation like their mailbox got hit the night before, yeah, it'll be a basic your road deputy.
Non-emergency.
Correct.
Very good, thank you. Next one will be consider approving agreement with MinDOT to approve the advanced construction of project SP 028-616-006 and state project 028-070-0. Consider approving resolution number 2314 MinDOT agency agreement for federal participation in advanced construction. All that word means what, Brian?
So the road paving project from on County State Highway 16 from Spring Grove down to the Iowa state line has been bid out. Those two project numbers listed, what it is one is for the road, the cost for the road surfacing, and the second one is to pave a couple feet of shoulders on each side of that roadway. This project is partially funded with 2024 federal funding. And we're gonna construct the project in 2023. So what that means is that initially when the project gets built, we need to be able to fund that project through local dollars, through our state aid money. And then once that federal funding becomes available in the fall of 2023, then the state will switch some money around. So essentially it's taking it from one bank account into another bank account. So it'll be swapping some state aid funds with some federal funding. So by the time that our project gets completed and we get to doing those payrolls, a lot of times that funding for the federal side will be available to us anyway. So in essence, before we can bring the project forward to the board for approval, which was bid out, we received one bid at about 3.5% over the estimate. We need to get this agreement approved. It goes to the state, they'll sign off on it along with some other prevailing wage DBE stuff. And then the contract will come back to the board in a couple weeks for the actual contractor. So this is something that's been done before in the past. There's really nothing that's special about this compared to other projects that get done this way with our own states.
Okay, so the project is gonna get done this year?
Yes.
Is that a complete reconstruction of everything? I mean, there was some conversation about doing 4 inches in some places, giving it 2 inches.
We're gonna mill up the existing pavement completely down below the pavement and then repave on
So
top.
the full distance is complete.
Well, from the, essentially from the city limits where the curb and gutter ends down to the Iowa state line.
Make a motion, we approve SP 028616066 and SP 02807011010. And also the resolution 2314.
The second.
So moved.
And further discussion, question? Being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Number 4 was removed from the agenda. What's there? And number 5, discuss possibility of renting airport land for the 2023 growing season. Discussion should consider the cost of versus benefit of renting and consider the fact that construction of the taxiway is likely to begin this summer or early fall. Fine.
Yeah, so the county purchased a little under 8 acres of land, with a good portion of that was farm field. Last year, for the purpose of constructing some taxiways and having space available for future hangar construction. Those hangars haven't determined if they're gonna be county built, privately built, you know, how that's gonna be funded and paid, but the first way is, the first item to do is to construct the taxiways to, that way whoever builds a hangar can connect and get the plane onto the runway. So the project is being advertised. Bids will be received back here in a few weeks. With an anticipated start date of sometime between mid to late summer to early fall. The item brought before the board today is, do we want to lease out or rent out some of the land space for crops? We kind of have 3 options. One is that we don't rent out any of the land that we previously purchased, to have that space available for our operation. The second option would be to rent out all of it. If we do that, I would recommend there's some clause in that rental agreement that if the county needs to get in there when the contractor is ready to get in to start work, that we can go ahead and disturb whatever crops we need to at no cost to the county, to start the construction of that work. Like I said, I don't know when it's going to start, so it's potential not start until the crops would be off the field. But I don't want to buy a contractor where they can't start until the late fall, in case we get into some wet weather. The third option would be to rent out the portion of the land that we're not going to disturb with this project. So roughly 3.38 acres. Maybe it'll get pinched a little bit more. We can maybe rent out 3.5 acres, and not rent out the remainder, and then we have that available where we don't have to disturb any crops. So those are kind of the 3 options.
Discussion.
I've talked to Nick and he's, if we rent it to him, he's gonna put in an early beam that'll be coming out first week in September. That's, he said that would help. I mean, so if you got to start before, I guess he said we can work something out. But otherwise, just leave it idle, and we gotta keep it forward, we gotta keep the weeds down. So we might be better off to look at deal with him, where we have to buy a couple acres back from him. Fine. And we got to look at weeds. More.
Robert?
If we were to rent the entire acreage, then the agreement would have to state that the only thing that we're gonna pay them back. Let's say we have to disrupt 4 acres is gonna be the rental amount for those 4 acres. We're not gonna reimburse for the value of the beans that potentially would have been. The problem with that is he's got a cost as far as the fertilizer and seeding and time it takes to do it, so. If he's okay with giving up the beans, should we start in August and the beans aren't ready to pick? And he's only gonna get the money back that we accepted for leasing. I wouldn't be against the, the 3.5 acres. I question whether or not we should do the whole acre.
Rent it all out.
Right. Only because the way it's planned, we're gonna be disturbing those beans. It's just.
If they start. But you don't know when they're gonna start.
We don't, so, once the bids are open, we can talk to the contract and get a better idea. I don't know exactly when, the beans will be planted, if it's being planted here in the next, 2-3 weeks, they might get planted before.
It'll probably be planted next week, knowing the renter, so.
You know, if you want to get the beans off earlier, you want to plant them earlier too.
He'll plant a 00 bean and be ready to pick and first. The only thing like you were getting at is. Is he willing to if we have to wreck a crop, 2-3 acres of the crop. Is he expecting to get reimbursed for that?
Give him his land rent back.
Well, we gotta get that finalized before we. Have an agreement here.
It's a good point that also, whenever somebody starts contract, it might be 2-3 weeks before they get to the disturbance there. They're setting up, doing their stuff, their prep work. The prep work might take longer than the actual construction. So of the 3 options, I lean towards the number 2, but good point as far as confirming, making sure we have this covered. But we want to have this contract done before 2 weeks from now too.
So what's number 2?
That was the one where we did all of it.
Rent it all out, and then if we have to disturb it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we probably need to table this. Until we get a firm agreement. I mean, we can't say we're gonna rent it all out without an agreement on. If we need to destroy part of the crop. Right?
So, well, that's where I said the sample agreement, what was done previously, and we'd have to go through and revise a little bit of language there regarding the crops. So the agreement that we've had in the past, yeah, where if the county terminates the lease, we'd have to compensate them for loss. We'd have to change that language in there, but I can definitely change that language and speak with Nick Boscheit and get the.
So how much is the rent again?
So I believe last year was $200 an acre. Roughly. The crops within that airport boundary that has big restrictions is $120 an acre, so really, we're talking about, an additional 3 acres, if you plant that 3 acres or not, we're talking roughly $600.
We're not talking huge amounts of
No.
money here as far as that. The only issue being if they have to reimburse for crops, I mean, that was the Jamie Bird agreement, so we gotta change the terms of the agreement. So all we gotta give them back is the lease amount. It's only gonna amount to $300-400, and how much does it cost to plant an acre of beans? I'm asking a farm person.
About $150 to $200 an acre. Give or take more. I'd say if we could. If you'd agree to this, we'd give him his rent back. And that'd be it, not the destroy of the crop. I don't know if he'd agree to that. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying. I don't know, so.
And some unanswered questions here.
Well, I mean, if that construction company's gonna get there and like they say they are, it's gonna have to be out for next summer. I mean, we get a month of rain in this whole summer. They probably aren't gonna make it there until September. He said if he had to take the beans out in August, he'd throw them in the dryer.
Big enough to put in a dryer in August, I mean.
I don't know, these are beans, I don't.
They mature early.
I don't know.
I don't know about beans, diddly squat gets them.
But, I guess we got too many questions right now. If we can get that part that you're talking about removing. I think it's okay, but we don't have the document here to approve. Fair statement? So can
And you could approve it with the change.
with
And then see if he
stipulation of,
accepts it.
that's a good point too.
Well, I think we should approve something so they can either know. or say
Well, he
no.
needs to know, he needs a
Yeah.
plan here, so.
Robert,
Is Nick rents all the land from the airport? Not Jamie Bird?
No, Berg does the rest. Nick has farmed this field before in the past,
So
so.
he's got the farm on the south side of the enter. The
Yes.
acreage on the south side.
Yes,
See, we have to pay for the loss of the crop, that, then we're talking some more money.
Yeah.
So,
loss of crop will be more of a hit than the rent.
so would you be willing to pay for the loss of the crop on 3 acres? And the tune of $800 an acre or $900 an acre,
I would not. Person. It's just,
minus the rent? You do it that way, take the rent off of it.
but if we're only getting $125 an acre,
Yeah.
why would? The only way I'd agree to this is if we rent him the 7 acres with the understanding that if we disturbed 4 acres because of the project, he gets his $125 an acre back,
And that's
and
it,
that's it.
is that a motion?
We're 200, the rest.
I don't know, however much we get for it, it's 125, 200, whatever it is.
200, right?
so last year it was, I believe, like $201 an acre, roughly is what it computed out to.
Well, you mentioned 125, what,
Yeah,
that's,
so-
is that for
so-
the other part or?
So the portion within the airport, that we do restrict the
Height.
crops to be 4 feet or less in height, so essentially beans and.
Yeah.
And hays, but all they can plant in that, we get $120 an acre is what our current lease is on that, so.
Because of the restriction.
Because of the height restriction, so, in some ways, if there's some risk for the farmer that we're gonna be in there disturbing this 3 acres for, before it gets the crops off. It might make sense to agree with an amount closer to that 120 rather than 200. Would the county want to, would the landowner be willing to spend $200 an acre if there's more risk to? Maybe the 120 would be.
Oh, so what you're saying is we reduce it to 120 for
Maybe
that 3-4
Maybe it
acres.
makes sense to agree to have it reduced because of the risk to the farm.
Rent him the whole 7+ acres for $120 an acre. With the understanding that if the county project takes place prior to the beans coming off, we would reimburse him $120 an acre for the 4 acres that are disturbed.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
Can you repeat that one time for me? I didn't-
So rent him the 7+ acres that the county has for $120 an acre. If during the summer, the construction project starts and we disturb, say, 4 acres, however many acres we disturb, we will reimburse him the $120 per acre that we're disturbing.
The rent only.
And that's it,
The rent.
Yeah.
and that's it.
That's it. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Were you able to copy that, Allison?
Got it.
Further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carry. Moving on to the next is consider approval of wildcat manager for the 2023 camping season. Brian.
Yes, so, so this final item then is, we had some discussion last week regarding the park manager position. Since that time, the Parks Committee has met, with just the committee members and also met with, the individual that received the highest score, for that position, met with that person in the afternoon on Thursday as well. Got some draft language for a park manager agreement. I don't know that language has been sent on to the board or to actually the individual yet, but we have some draft terms kind of put in place. So We would like to start, at least, moving forward with having some discussions, getting that individual into the park, look at what the office space looks like, getting some of the inner workings talked about, even though we don't have a formal agreement put into place. So, what I wanted to get approval kind of on today, what we talked about on today is, do we have the general consensus of the board or approval of the board of who we're gonna hire? And if so, can we start working with that individual prior to the agreement being formalized either next week or the following?
Discussion.
Well. Approval of who you're gonna hire.
Well,
Thus far, I don't know I
okay,
don't know who that is.
Yeah.
So.
yep, so. Okay, so Amber Miller is the one that received the highest score, of which, they're looking at creating an LLC or have created an LLC called Fireside Management. So that is who the agreement would be with, would actually be a Fireside Management LLC. And it'll be a joint ownership between Amber Miller and Steve.
Getzinger.
What was that?
Getzinger.
Getzinger. Yes. So,
So this, it wasn't a score, was it? It was a vote from the interview committee.
correct. I think 4-2 was the number that was. I don't have the actual tallies of who's voted for what.
Well, we don't have the actual
Yeah.
scoring either.
So. Yeah, so some of that stuff, Tess has some of that stuff. I believe that she maybe sent some stuff onto the board for a little bit of background. And I was asked to come here today.
The request is to approve of the hiring of this group.
It would be to request to agree to continue to work with Amber Miller toward the creation of a agreement for hired managers. So we're going on the right path.
It's not not an action to hire this person, it's to continue working with it.
Well, we don't have an agreement in place, so I mean, do you want it to be, how do you want to word it as a board when we don't have a formal contract between Fireside Management LLC and the county? So, I don't know if there's gonna be any hiccups that's gonna prevent this contract from being approved by the board in the next couple of weeks. We would like to at least get that person into the park, getting phone calls daily, and people want to get into there to start camping. We just don't have staffing to go down there and open it up here or there for an individual. Once we get this manager hired, they can start, preparing so they can hit the ground running. May 1st, or maybe a few days early, get it opened up 2-3 days early and have the actual weekend.
So in an email from Tess here. Tess, you said that you were gonna have a contract ready today?
Commissioners, we met we met last Thursday afternoon, right prior to the courthouse being closed Friday. And then, the holiday weekend, what I put in the email is that I could work on a contract today. I returned back to work at, yesterday afternoon.
So we're still working on the details, but
We-
would this motion be for the hiring thereof with the contractor forthcome?
Well, we got the contract pretty much decided on how we want it. It just got to be written up enough.
The contract just needs to be put together. As I believe we received all of the relevant details for terms and conditions last Thursday afternoon. And when I say I believe, I mean it appeared that we did. I don't foresee anything that was left out. Just have to make sure that the contract the language is consistent with those, that discussion, as well as with the clauses all fit together and aren't inconsistent with themselves. So there are some changes, but it shouldn't be that difficult.
Action item says here, consider approval of Wildcat manager for 2023 camping season. And there's no name. So
I didn't put it on the agenda. The name, that the person we are working with at this time is, Miller and Getzingers. Persons, I should say.
and that's what's been brought forward by the Parks and Recs Committee to. Yep. Continue to hire. Those two would be the manager, right? And then we would work on a contract and then we'd have to vote on that at the next regular board meeting.
Next regular board meeting, or should the board wish to have a session next week, it is within your authority to have an open session with whatever you put on the agenda for that.
Work session.
No, I'm just mentioning what your options are.
Well, the contract is pretty much done. We just need to put in their LLC and their insurance. And money we discussed. So, I mean, there's really nothing left to do with the contract, but to write it up and put their information.
We need to confirm the insurance and the bond.
I mean, yeah,
There's a
that's all
bond
right.
as well. So, and that should not be problematic, but it, it takes time to get those things. For folks to get those things together, it usually takes a week or two. And then we could bring it forward and be done.
I make a motion, we approve Amber Miller and Steve Getzinger as Wildcat manager. For the 2023 season. Give pending approval of the contract.
There a second,
I'll second it.
further discussion,
Would ask that we vote by roll.
okay, call for the roll,
District 1,
no,
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
No.
District 4,
no,
District 5,
Yes,
What do we,
when you have the contract complete, bring it back.
how can you complete it? We got no way to manage it.
Have to have the contract done, we don't have a contract. with
why
the
are we
details.
having this vote then?
Well,
This
Because
doesn't
it
make
was
any
on-
sense.
On the action item, we had the action item, we had the roll.
It's on the deal, so now.
So we're not gonna hire, we're gonna hire somebody else.
We didn't say that yet,
Oh, okay.
we're just saying we don't have a contract details necessary to make a vote, because we've done.
Well, then we should have even had an action item. We should have had the contract in front of us and voted on this thing and get it done. Cause the camping season is the 1st of May here.
Yep. Anyway. moving
That's
on.
just,
There's no reason why that contract.
this is crazy.
Jesus.
Well, if there's no reason it wasn't done, how come it's?
On there.
Well, I mean, we had it all put right on paper. All we had to do was copy it off of. Allison could have typed it up in 20 minutes and been done.
My motion was pending the contract approved.
Anyway, the action has been taken care of. Moving on to number 7. Consider adopting resolution 2315, resolution authorizing Houston County staff to execute all necessary documents to ensure Houston County participation in multi-state settlements relating to opioid supply chain participants in Minnesota opioid state subdivision memorandum of agreement. Donna,
Yes. By AMC individual Mary Lyon, and she is assisting all the counties in getting this agreement signed. And what it entails, it's the settlement dollars will continue to be split 75% to local governments and 25% to the state. Payments will be made directly to local governments. In continuation with the previous settlements, up to 7% of the local government share will be reserved for private attorneys' fees. Attorneys will be required to seek reimbursement through the federal settlement first. Unused funds will be returned to local governments for redistribution. The settlement funds can be used for a very broad set of activities that is based on allowable uses delineated in the settlement, each county will be asked to approve the national settlement agreements and the Minnesota Memorandum of Agreement via DocuSign. The MOA is written to apply to all future opioid settlements, so you will hopefully, we will not, as a county, have to sign future versions of the MOA. So once this resolution has been passed, we will just be working to get this document or the settlements all completed. This new round of settlements that's within this MOA agreement is with Allergen, Teva, Walgreens, Walmart, and CVS. So basically, to summarize this whole purpose of this memorandum is that the overall Houston County as a whole can expect to see $637,585 from the settlements with J&J and the distributors, and hopefully $520,815 from the new round of the settlements. So once I sign this I DocuSign this settlement, which is due on April 18th, then the county is in the, you might say, the bucket for receiving this dollar amount due from the settlements.
Over how long period of time?
It doesn't exactly say how long. That wasn't actually printed out to me, but I'm sure it'll be probably over. I'm not exactly sure. I can't answer that. She didn't say anything about that. The time period. Does anybody else remember anything on in any AMC meetings that you guys have had? Does anybody bring that up at all? About
It's a long-term payout, isn't it?
On some of the others.
I would assume it's going to be.
And is there a upfront on one of the other agreements? Seemed like there was a larger one up front, and then it was one downhill type after that, or descending amounts.
Yep, that's not really, I don't know. I don't recall. I don't know if that's actually in this agreement or not. As a whole, if you read on it, read it into it, but I'm assuming it won't be one payment. I'm assuming we'll get, we'll get some and then we'll get a little bit more, it's probably not going to be in one actual lump sum payment. But I believe all 80, they're trying to get all 87 counties to get in on this.
Question, discussion. Entertain a motion. I guess it's I'll move for enter into the agreement. Or yeah, MOA. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Moving on to number 8, consider approving request for assistance in providing 30,000 to Affogato Lane Coffee Company for 2023 at the rate of 3.5% for 7 years from the county's revolving loan fund EDA. A lot else.
Yeah, so last week we had our monthly EDA meeting. We had 2 requests for revolving loans. Kelsey and Raymond Anderson are the owners of Affogato Coffee Lane Company, and they're requesting financing to purchase equipment and renovate a building for a coffee business. It'll be located at 28 South Walnut Street, right next to Caddy's Cafe.
28 North.
Oh. 28 North Walnut Street. And they actually started the business out of a little coffee truck. They go to different events, they sell the coffee, and they currently are selling just right in front of the building. But they started out, it's been successful. La Crescent is excited about this, and the EDA unanimously voted to recommend to the commissioners that they approve the loan. You have anything to add?
Just that correction in the address. Nope, they're cooking every day.
They're brewing every day. I think it's a good business plan and they had good numbers and I think it'd be a good thing for the city of La Crest and I make a motion to approve this loan.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion?
Just one question, are they gonna continue with the coffee truck?
Yes,
Going to different events, throughout the area.
Only reason I ask is because I see their name on a program that they're having at Hiawatha Valley Mental Health.
Good. Okay, further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Number 9, consider approving request for assistance providing $40,000 loan to Western Sun LLC at their 2023 rate of 3.5% for a period of 10 years from the county's revolving loan fund. Alice.
Yeah, so Michelle and Paul Brinson own Western Sun LLC. They bought 2 lots from the Spring Grove EDA and the industrial park, and they are going to build a building there for their trucking business. Again, the EDA Board of Directors unanimously passed the motion to recommend that you approve this. They haul for several local businesses, including Spring Grove Bottling Works and the haulers, the Caledonia haulers.
Snowpack too, right?
Yes.
Reefer type of work.
It's an existing business, ongoing. It's new.
They're just
Not
building,
new.
they're building a truck shop with a wash bay, industrial park in Spring Grove.
That's just 2 lots right along the highway, side by side.
Yep.
Great location.
I'll make,
Move to, okay,
okay,
you do it, I'll say.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Okay, that ends the action items. Now it's time for board updates. Start with Greg.
Nothing.
Excuse me,
Nothing.
nothing? Okay. Bob,
I had the Winlick meeting last night up in Winona. Approved the bylaws and future meeting dates and some funding questions that they had. How they were gonna disperse it. Got a little tight on their budget in a couple of areas. So they got some pretty good progress there. They're gonna be looking at cutting the meetings down to quarterly, the way it sounded, instead of as much as they've been meeting. But, so that's pretty much that in a nutshell.
okay. Anything else?
Nope, other than that, just a
Okay.
few little calls.
Very good. Robert,
I went to the SimCAG board meeting last night in Casson. Interesting board meeting as far as the process and the programs that are ongoing. Problem that SimCAG is looking at right now is that they're the state requires that every 10 years they reconfigure their program analysis and their calculations for this, the dispersing of funds. The new analysis is going to benefit which is no big surprise, it's going to benefit the metro areas. And it's going to affect the outstate areas so that they're going to have less revenue because of this new calculation. So there's an issue as far as coming up with additional revenues. What it's going to affect is like the senior meals and housing assistance for seniors and things like that in outstate Minnesota. So it's not a good thing, and we're going to contact our legislators and ask them to redetermine how the money is split or add money to the funding so that outstate Minnesota doesn't end up coming up short as far as providing the needs for especially the elderly in the state of Minnesota. That was the big crux of the meeting. That's all I.
Sure.
I had land use committee meeting this morning. Talked about several things. Biggest thing I probably want to bring up to you guys that they did their flyovers recently for Schneider Um. They've offered us a deal. Yeah, there's. You know, our original agreement to do a 6-inch resolution and the contract was for 56,000, I believe. They came back and said that they'd do a 3-inch resolution for us for an additional 17,000 when the original contract was gonna be over 20,000. If we were to, what we did to prove that, so. There was some discussion where, you know, assessor's office would like a 3-inch resolution, be helpful for zoning too, but. Okay, they're throwing this deal out. I mean, I think it's kind of like a marketing play we were discussing that they're throwing deals out here. I don't know what you guys think, but I told them I'd bring it up for discussion. Maybe we offer them half that 17,000 or something. If, I mean, how much more work is it for them, really, for them to give us 3-inch? It's not a whole lot. Is it $17,000 worth? I don't know. We didn't agree to that in the contract, so. I said I'd bring it up.
Now.
Huh?
What resolution are we getting at?
It was, the contract was for 6-inch.
6.
I don't know, Bob, what is your thoughts? You were in on the meeting.
Yeah, it just sounded like they were trying to
Yeah,
play a little bit of a game, but in talking to the zoning and the surveyor and all them, it is something that would be very useful to have the better resolution that make their job a lot easier.
so, yeah, and that's so what. I guess I'm trying to get a consensus on maybe we could offer them 60,000. I don't know. What do you guys, you know? A little extra to get the 3-inch. Maybe they'll take it. If they don't, then we'll just stick with a 6-inch.
6 inches, 56,000.
Yep.
If we did half.
That's
of
over 3 years.
17,
That's over 3 years.
56,000 a year or split three.
Split.
Divided by 3.
Correct, Carol?
Anyway,
They were asking for 17, if we went from 56 to 64. Well, half of what they're asking for.
Yep. That'd be fine too.
It's like go along with that if it actually benefits the county because of the information.
Is that a consensus that we could tell Eric Schmidt to counter offer with that? Cause he needs to know like today.
I can go along with that because it's an improvement. Now, how long does this film last? How long do we use it before we have to redo these pictures?
Every 3 years.
When they
It's a
come
3-year
in?
contract and it comes up for renewal in 3 years. Okay. And they were out doing it over the weekend. And there's no foliage. Hopefully nobody. 3-inch resolution is pretty detailed, so,
Yep, it'd be beneficial.
well, yeah. Depending on what side of the fence you're on. Is, what do you guys, other guys faults on 64, is that what you're saying, Bob?
Well, that would just take half.
Half of the 817.
Yep, not quite.
Up to half.
That's good.
Okay, so.
It'd be 64.5.
Should we advise Eric to go to 64.5, and if they don't take it, then we'll just stick with a 6-inch?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
All right,
Are you good?
is that okay with you, Greg? Do it?
Yep.
Okay. We just heard this morning from public comment on this Second Amendment issue. Saying a dedicated county and I know this has been brewing, talked about quite a bit. And so I did start doing some of my own research on it and what is this bringing about? Why is this becoming a hot topic? And from what I gather, there's a couple of bills that have been stuck in an omnibus bill for a budget for public safety instead of a standalone bill. And so I think that's some of the concerns. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts on this, as far as there's 18 counties that have done it. Is it something we want to put on for an action item for at the next regular meeting?
I think we could discuss it more next week, but I'm leaning towards putting it on because it gives us a chance to voice concerns of our people.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess
we're
we'll
gonna have it with discussion
for workshop.
and then plan from there. So we'll put that on our discussion item next week. Report.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
If it's in the omnibus bill, does it have its own, does anything involving gun controls have its own House and Senate number, or is it just part of the omnibus?
There's a House and a Senate number. But it's thrown into a public safety budget.
But to find it, you can find your
Yep.
the numbers.
It's a red flag law and the other one is a storage law, I believe.
I can talk to you about those numbers.
I just want a point of clarification on our vote here on Wildcat, so. Who are we gonna have a contract with if we? I mean. I'm a little confused.
When the contract is completed, they can bring it back for vote when it's complete.
But with who? Who's the
Well,
contract?
the top candidate is probably still in the running. We have a contract.
We just voted the top candidate down.
If we didn't have a contract.
Well, that's not, I think that's something Allison could get with Tess and get it done. There's no reason that contract ain't done. We had it hammered out here last Thursday, right to a T. Every question, we worked on that for 4 hours. And now we have no, Carol, am I right? Am I right? We worked on that for 4 hours to get that contract set up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's not done. I think Allison should help Tess and get the contract done so we get Wildcat opened up.
It's opening up.
Can't argue with that. It's just that it's done. It's done. I haven't seen it.
Well, I know.
I want to see it before I vote to approve it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Should have it today. We were supposed to have it today.
No, we don't.
I
So
know.
Okay,
No, not really. I mean, we voted down the top candidate out of the interview here to become the Wildcat manager pending contract approval. So who are we gonna have a contract with now? Continue with who though?
candidate. And
Cause I mean, they already went out to get the lawyer and setting up their LLC and doing all that, so they've got some invested here.
Yeah, commissioners, we had a meeting on Thursday morning at 10:30 to discuss what we wanted, what the committee wanted to put in the contract. We discussed all the details in 100% detail. And then we met with Amber at 1:30 and just, brought those details all to her, and it was all agreed upon at that time, and everything was given to us.
And this was last Thursday.
Yes.
Last Thursday at 1:30 we finished. Yeah, everything was all in detail. The only thing that we had to do was just pop in some numbers and change the and put the names in there.
has to have a response.
I do, commissioners. There were language changes that we needed to put in there. We need to make sure the contract was consistent. I advised the committee at that time that we were in 2 hours going into holiday weekend. It was likely it would not be done and highly likely it would not be done in time for Tuesday. I recommended that we suggest to the board that we, if they could have a session, publish a session during what's normally a work group as an open meeting. This is not unheard of. There's no rules against it. It's something that's been done before. And it is not a matter of, although I try to put contracts together where department heads can pop stuff in. When there's language changes and there's insurance and things, like I said, the parties needed time to pull that together. We do have the terms. We will put them into the proper format and with the proper language. But all that was noted to the committee at that time, and it was my understanding, there wasn't any discussion against that. Everybody understood that that's what was gonna happen. I mean, we had,
Last Thursday.
yes, I mean, last
So
Thursday.
is that the plan now, is to have a special session for workshop?
It's not my plan. I just
That's what you
recommend.
just said.
Said we could.
Just said you could.
It's available.
Her choice.
It's not my choice. Thank you, commissioners. I am just providing the information. I'm just putting it together and it has to be done in a reasonable manner. But it is not that I am not capable of doing it. It's not that I sat on doing it. I mean, I informed the committee of my schedule and of the holiday.
Fine. Can it be ready for next Tuesday if we decide to have a special meeting for that purpose thereof?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we, let's figure on having if you want to post it, Allison, that we're gonna have a short, or regular meeting for the purposes only of determining manager of Wildcat.
We don't like to do special sessions during workshop.
But we can't.
We can't.
Put it off till the 4th week. We're screwing it up already. She's not gonna get in there. Nobody's gonna get in there till the 1st of May anyhow, so let's do this final decision the last week of. Cause I won't be here next week for some answer. So I would.
Fourth,
The next regular session.
regular one, okay. Any further discussion on the topic, or what's the feeling here, guys? Make a decision, so we can,
I'm gonna have to do something.
I would have been okay with a special meeting during the work group, but if everybody wants to go until the 4th meeting, that's fine.
Well, Greg can't be here.
I know that.
He was on the
I
committee and
understand.
he was on the interview committee, so.
okay, so then. We'll put it on the 24th. I think it's week. I can't remember the date, but the 4th regular meeting of the month. To have that discussion and vote. With finalized contract. Okay,
No, that's it.
If you need help with the test, we can have Allison help you get that written out.
Commissioner, I don't need the assistance, but thank you for the offer.
okay, moving on to. Of course, I was involved last Thursday. I went to a city council meeting in La Crescent last night. Our assessor did a fantastic job explaining the assessing process and how things are set up. With a couple of the members there had some concerns or calls. Also in August, there's a Bike Across Minnesota bicycling event. And it's gonna spend the 18th in La Crescent, so be a lot of bicycles coming through on mid part of August. Other than that, they went through the different things of where they're changing your bike system, but that's something local. But, they're happy there in La Crescent and oh, it is. That's all I have to report. Anything else? Okay,
Like Tess has something.
oh, Tess,
Good question, commissioners. It was my understanding, although maybe I misheard, that the sheriff's deputy was taken off the consent agenda to be put on the action items, or am I mistaken on that?
We didn't get that information.
That
Never
wasn't,
happened.
that didn't happen.
Oh,
This consent agenda approved.
I misheard them.
Part of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, there being anything else? Moving to public comment. At this point, any closing public comment? To address the board. Any public comment?
Commissioners, can I just pop in here for a second? I did get your question that you had on the amendment to the opioid settlement answered by Mary just a bit ago from AMC. And she said that if 100% of the counties do participate in this memorandum, then we should start seeing the payments in July. If it doesn't happen that way, it might be delayed. And as far as the longevity of the payments, it's going to be, she individually gave me these, the timeline. So if Allison would like to take these down, Teva is 2023 through 2035. Allergen is 2023 through 2029. Walgreens is 2023 through 2036. Walmart is 2023 through 2028. CVS is 2023 through 2032. And so that's if everything is 100%, everybody agrees 100%, all the counties, that is what the timeline is. So those questions have been answered for you. Thank you.
So Donna.
Yep.
Is this gonna be similar to the first opioid settlement where you get a larger amount and it gradually diminishes over the time period, or is this divided equally by the years involved for each organization?
I'm thinking it's gonna be spread out a little bit because of, that's what I'm thinking. She didn't answer that for me, but that's what I'm kind of guessing. Being that throughout these different years, I'm sure we'll be getting different payments.
I'm guessing it'll be spread out more evenly. The other one was over with a big pharmaceutical company, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So this looks like it's the pharmacies that are getting.
Yep.
We can expect all our prescription drugs to go up after this. I just wanted to, at the risk of putting Brian on the spot, you have any comment on this Second Amendment?
Not so I didn't talk to Steve about that, first
Okay.
and see what if the rights to be on that.
The only reason I ask, I know there's the southeast region of the sheriff's concerned about the legislation that's coming up too. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. We voice opinion about one portion.
Okay.
Of the ammunition storage.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the cause?
Just really quick, I'm sorry. I misspoke on the Western Sun LLC. I don't know why I said haulers. I'm thinking of a different thing, but they do haul for snowpack and Spring Grove Bottling Works.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's why I said snowpack.
I'm thinking of a different.
He might pull for haulers.
He might. We don't know on that one. But either way, it's a good project.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Let's entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Ah.
All say nay. Carry.